Hello, my name is Darren Thomas. I'm the Director of Educational Research Techniques. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a quiz inside Moodle. So, as you can see, I'm already logged into Moodle, and in order to make a quiz, you have to obviously first turn editing on. I've already done that, and so if you look at the button here, if you haven't clicked it yet, it should be green, but once you click it, it'll turn red like so. And now, in order to make a quiz, I click on Add an Activity or Resource. So I click right here, and we're going to make a quiz. And once you do that, you click on Add. Okay, so of course you have to give the name a quiz, so I'm going to give my quiz the name Practice, like so. I hope you can see this. Make it a little bit bigger for you. So that's the name of my quiz. And then there's a whole lot of options here that I'm going to go over in future videos. In this video, I just want to get you up and running with the quiz, and I will explain the details about timing, grade, layouts, etc. in future videos. So now that we've already given our quiz a name, which is the only thing we have to do on this page, we can move on to the next page. So I'm going to click Save and Display. And so now, as you can see here, it's telling us that no questions have been added yet. Now remember, we spent about almost 20 videos learning how to make questions. And so in this video, we're actually going to take the questions we made in the question bank and we're going to move them into an actual quiz. So in order to do that, I first need to click on Edit Quiz. Now there are several things you need to keep in mind here. First of all, you have the maximum grade. Right now, the maximum grade is 10 points. So no matter how many questions you put in this quiz, Moodle will find a way to make sure that it is out of 10. So if you put 10 questions, each question will be worth 1 point. If you put 20 questions, each question will be worth half a point on the maximum grade. Moodle knows how to automatically adjust things statistically for you. So please keep that in mind. If you want to change it, you just put in whatever number you want and you click Save, like so. Now, the next thing is about adding questions. There are 3 ways to add questions. And let me click here. You can make a new question, you can take questions from a question bank, or you can take a random question from the question bank. So let me go through each of these one at a time. When you create a quiz, you can also simultaneously create new questions that will go to that quiz if you so desire, and that's what the new question feature does. For people who are new to Moodle, I do not recommend that because it is very confusing when you're new to something to do 2 things at once. If you try to make a new question inside a new quiz, you're doing 2 things at once. You are setting up the quiz and you are also simultaneously creating the questions for the quiz. When you're new to something, that is going to cause cognitive overload and it's going to be very confusing and frustrating. I recommend instead, especially for people who are new to Moodle, that you first make your questions inside the question bank as shown in prior videos. Because you're only doing one thing at a time right now, you're just making questions. After you finish making all your questions, you then make the actual quiz when you create the activity on your Moodle homepage. So I don't recommend using a new question feature for people who are new to Moodle. If you're a Moodle pro, you can do many things at once, it's not a problem. The second one that I want to talk about is actually the last one, a random question. When you select a random question, what happens is, and I'm going to show you right now by clicking on this, is that first you have to pick the category. So I'm going to click Practice Test number 1 because that's where I put all my questions. The number 18 there is how many questions are inside that category. I've explained categories in prior videos. And so what happens here is you have to tell it how many questions to pull. And it's up to you how many. I'm just going to pick 3, and then you can even add a random question if you so desire, and it just gets crazy. And so you can see right there 3 random questions from Practice Test 1. Now the problem with this is that when the questions are random, you don't know what to expect in terms of the assessment. So from an assessment standpoint, it's not a good idea because some students are getting this experience, some students are getting that experience. And it's hard to compare. That could be much of a problem if you're trying to use the assessment for actual, grading, marking, providing a grade. If you're just using it for a learning experience, it doesn't matter. But the random question thing is not really good because you're not able to compare the results as much. So let me just delete these questions for you, and I want to go back and touch on a few more things on this. And so if I go back here and I click add a random question, you can see here's the category, the number of questions, and you can even make new categories if you so desire, if you want to. So that's how the random question feature works. It takes questions randomly from your category and adds them to the actual quiz you're trying to create. But again, like I've already said several times, you are not able to compare the learning experiences. So I don't necessarily recommend that because you don't know what to expect many times. Now, my personal favorite and the one I recommend especially for beginners is add questions from a question bank. This is when you manually add questions from whatever category you're pulling them from. So I'm going to click here. And so these are all my questions I made in a prior video. In many prior videos, these are all the different questions different question types in the prior videos. If I want to select all, I just click on this little T right here and all the questions are highlighted. And that's how it works. And so when you're satisfied, you just click add selected questions to the quiz, like so. And then all the questions are all set up for me. Each question gets its own page. That's the default setting for Moodle. Of course, you can do it other ways. I don't recommend doing it other ways, and I'll explain more in prior videos because you want the progress to be saved after each question, and the best way to do that is to have a question per page. Now, I have 18 questions, but remember, my total score here is still out of, I have 21 questions. So my total score here is still out of 10. So even though there are 21 questions, the maximum grade is still 10 points. If I want to change this, like I've already told you, I can change it to 21. So, 1 mark equals 1 point in the maximum grade. I click save like so. And there you have it. That's how we do it. And now, if you want to preview, you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And you can see here under administration, they have what they call a preview. So we click on preview like so. And now here's question number 1. I had to put in the answer. Over here off to the right hand side, you have the quiz navigation. This tells me how many questions there are. And it even tells me if I've completed one. So let's see here. I'll just put in the makeup answer here. 4.32. Then I click go to the next page. And then as you can see here, when you look off to the right, question number 1 has the little gray color underneath it. That means that first question is completed. And of course, question number 2, I don't know about this one. Let me move on. So I skipped question number 2. Notice how it never gets a little gray underline. That is how you mark your progress. And then off over here, it tells you what question you're on, whether you answered it or not, the total points possible, and you can flag a question. That's the way to help a student remember to go back to a question. So I put the flag on and then I move on. And then you can see, if you look real close on question number 3, let me make this really big for you. Really, really big. Let me see, you can see right here, there's a little tiny red triangle in the upper right-hand corner of question number 3. That means that question was flagged. I need to go back to it as the student and look at it again. And so here's another question. It's a drag and drop. Okay. Again, if you looked at the prior videos, this should be very familiar to you. And so after I do that, I click on next page, and then etc., etc. When I'm done, I click finish attempt. And it tells you right here which ones you've answered, which ones you have not answered. So there's a lot of questions I didn't answer. And so when I'm satisfied, I click submit all and finish. It warns me, are you sure? And I click submit all and finish. And then it gives me my results. Why does it give me my results? Because that's the default feature in Moodle. It gives you the results of it. And again, you can change these settings when you look at the options inside the quiz. So in this particular video, we went through the entire process of setting up a basic type of quiz inside Moodle. I showed you how to select the questions, the different features, how you can make new questions. I showed you how you can also pick randomly from a category, and also how you can select manually yourself from the question bank. I then showed you, the point settings, how you can adjust that. I showed you what the actual quiz setup looks like, the experience for the student as they go through each page, how their progress is marked, how it tells you what question you're on, how many points that question is worth, how you can flag a question, etc. And then I also showed you what happens when a student submits a quiz, when you use the default settings inside the Moodle quiz option, and how they get the immediate feedback about what the answers are. And again, that's on the default settings. So I hope that this video was very useful. In future videos, we will go through the individual options to where you can customize a quiz to ensure that you are achieving the objectives that you desire. Thank you for watching.